very top, just going through every single thing. We don't have the lid here, but we know that the frontal bone is here. Yeah, here we go. Here's a it's not his lid, but it's a lid. There's the frontal bone, parietal bones, and part of the occipital bone there. Okay, and we have the temporal bone here. Remember, those all coordinate and correspond with the lobes of the brain, right? And these are the cranial bones. So we got our frontal bone here, right? So we have the supraorbital margin. Okay, that's where your eyebrow is, and the supraorbital foramen. Okay, over here you got the two parietal lobes on top. Okay, then you have the temporal lobe right here. The temporal lobe, the temporal bone. Sorry. Okay, you have the zygomatic process, which makes the zygomatic arch. Right. You have the mandibular fossa. You have the external auditory meatus. You have the mastoid process, the styloid process, stylomastoid foramen. Turn it over. We have the internal auditory meatus. You have the common carotid, and then the jugular. Okay? So that's the temporal. The occipital, back here, we have the foramen magnum, the occipital condyles, okay, and the external occipital protuberance. All right. On the inside, we have a sphenoid bone. It's this bone here, and up underneath, it looks like a butterfly shape. The sella turcica is here, and that's where your pituitary gland sits. Right. Up underneath there is the greater wing. These two ridges here, this makes up the lesser wing. Okay. You have the optic foramen and the supraorbital fissure up underneath there. And if we look at it this way, you have the optic foramen and then the supraorbital fissure.
Oh, it's above the eye.
It's above supraorbital. It's above, and then that
we'll
we'll talk about that one in a minute. Yeah.
Gotcha.
No, you're good. And then we have the foramen ovale, foramen lacerum, okay, foramen rotundum, and spinosum. Okay, again, refer back to your foramen video. Okay, then we have the ethmoid bone, which is right here. Okay, and you can see it right here. This is a perpendicular plate, and then you can actually see it right on the sides, on the inside of the. Okay, so when we look at it, the perpendicular plate is here. Okay, this down here is the vomer, but it's all fused together as one piece. It splits in the middle. Okay, so this is the perpendicular plate of the ethmoid. This is the cribiform plate. Okay, this is the crista galli, and these are the olfactory foramina. Okay, so that ends it with the 6 cranial bones. Next we have facial bones. Okay, so first up is our nasal bone, and that's the 2 pieces there. That's when you touch your nose, the bridge of your nose, that's what you're touching right there. That's what gives you the little bump. All right, next is the maxilla. It's the part above your teeth here, and it goes all the way up to right next to the nasal bone. Okay, you have the palatine process of your maxilla. Okay, you have the inferior infraorbital foramen, and then the inferior orbital fissure. Okay, next we have the lacrimal bone, which is right here. Okay, with the tear duct. Okay. We have the zygomatic bone right here, which this is going to be the temporal process, right? We have the palatine bone, which is here. Palatine bone is this. If you imagine on a real skull, it's easier to see the suture, but there's a little line there. This right here is the palatine process of the maxilla, right? This is the palatine bone, okay? We have the vomer, which you can see down here. We talked about that just a second ago. And you can actually see it all the way. This whole thing here is the vomer. Okay? Okay. Then you have the mandible. Let's see. Give me that jaw over there. And this is our lower jaw. Okay. Then we have the condylar process right here. The mental foramen, always, which when you're thinking, you put it right there on your chin. Okay. And then on the back, you have the mandibular foramen. Okay. The last bone that we have that we do not see here is actually your hyoid bone.
Yes, the throat.
And this is the picture of it right here. But it actually sits up here, okay? And it is Free floating, it does not directly articulate with bone. Okay? It's the only bone in your body that does not directly articulate bone to bone.
Okay.
It articulates with cartilage and it kind of free floats or it can move. Okay? And that's it.
Thank you.
Yay.
That's